Let's say you have a oynis ken geneva, someone stole it. It was no fault of mine. And certainly an oynis gomer, zoktaisis, an oynis gomer or a real oynis, an adam hamazik is going to be potter. And taisis raya is our case. Why is tevach umen shel kilkel bechinam potter? I adam u'la'olam. The teretz is it's an oynis is potter. Wonderful. So in other words, a shaychid is like a regular adam hamazik. He's potter ba'oynis. Now the question is, oy bazoi, why when he gets paid is he chayiv? I thought oynis he's potter. So Tosfos, wait a minute. What's the halacha of shem masacha that gets paid for his work? He's chayiv on geneva v'aveda. Geneva is a real oynis. The teretz is you're getting paid for something. Do your job. So zok Tosfos amavel de gechidish. The tavach uman, the paid professional, is not any different than a shem masacha and is chayiv on geneva. So according to Tosfos, it seems that a regular worker that doesn't get paid, like a regular adam mazik, and the fact that he gets paid is more v'chiyav, like a shem masacha. So according to this, we could pretty safely assume that a worker that gets paid has more responsibility. Getting paid for something, you have to take responsibility. But that's not the end of the story. The Ramban in Bava Metzia Daf Pei Beis takes exception with Tosfos, and he says, Adam mud la'olam oynis is chayiv even on an oynis gomer. And now he has to deal with Tosfos rayas. Tosfos has a bunch of rayas, so he deals with them ayin sham. But then he comes to the case of tavach umen shekilko. What's the chila getting paid or not? So Zakti Ramban that basically when someone does any mazik, he has to pay. So a paid shaychit is no different than another mazik, he has to pay. Why bechinam? If he does it for free, why is he potter? Zok toisel she'ein be'uman atoyib m'malachtay mishum mazik. Zok the Ramban is just the opposite. A paid worker has regular responsibility like another mazik. But if you're not getting paid, you're doing him a favor, and he allows you to do him that favor, and he wants you to do him that favor, he's not even paying you for it. It's like he's saying, try your best. Just like if I tell you, tear my jacket, and you tear it. I'll say, pay me. Other mudla. No, it doesn't make sense. You allowed me to, right? I gave you the animal. I'm not even paying you for it. I'm saying, try the best that you can, but no responsibility. So if you're getting paid, that's why you're chayiv. So what he's saying is that if you're not getting paid, I'm giving you reshus to do your best, including if you're mazik, you're potter. The Riva, which is quoted in the Shita Mugabetzba, Vakama Chav Zayin, it's before the third parak, says it like the Ramban, a little less of a chiddush, and he says, Adam mud la'olam is on all oynim except for oynis gomer. Not like Tosfos again. And then he says, how do we explain uman, the case of the tevach uman shekilko? So listen to his lashon. If he's getting paid, he damaged the animal. But when he's not getting paid, kivan the misaskim l'toivas hanizik lav adam amaziku. He's not adam amazik. You know what the person referred to him? As a mazik b'reshus. You give me an animal, you're not paying me for it, and what do you expect? So therefore, if I get paid, I have to take responsibility. If I'm not getting paid, if it's chinam, it's like you're telling me try your best. It's like an aman adam hamazik b'reshus. So now, Rabbi, it comes out a beautiful thing, that really a worker basically is like any other person. But a worker that's not getting paid is better off than a regular mazik. It's like he's saying, try your hardest. And I'll just give you an example. The Yamshel Shleim in Bava Kama Perik Tes Siman Chaf Aleph, he discusses a Mishnah. God, happens to be a Mishnah in Bava Kama Tzadik Chesed Amud Beis. If I hire a worker to knock down a wall, and as he's knocking down, another wall falls down, so we would say, Adam mud la'olam. But the Mishnah says, no, he's potter. Why? So the way the Yamshel Shleim explains is, you hired me to knock down a wall. I did that. And there was no way I should be able to realize that the other wall would come falling. It must have been a very weak wall, it wasn't built properly, whatever it is. But you hired me to knock down a wall, which I did. And there's no pshia on my part. So I did the work that you wanted me to do. I can't be responsible. So that's the yisoid. Generally, a worker that I tell him to do a job is chayiv, al tzadam amazik. But if you're not getting paid, then it can't be responsibility. So now let's go back to our original question. How do we look at a worker that's getting paid or not getting paid? I think it's mamish beautiful. According to Taisvis, a worker that's getting paid has more responsibility than a regular Adam Mazik. He's even chayiv on a oynis. Why? Like a shoy mesachim. According to the Riva and the Ramban, a worker is basically also chayiv. Unless he's not getting paid, then it's like a mazik brishus. So in a certain sense, according to the Riva and the Ramban, a worker that's not getting paid is less responsible than a regular Adam HaMazik. Now I hope we should be able to glide through all of our shilas once we have the simple yisai. Let's begin, okay? Let's say someone asked someone else to shecht, and an oynis gama happened. Now, I did my homework, and I spoke to someone who was a big magachir in El Cheshchita, and he said, I came to him at the right time. He just visited the shlachtais. So I asked him, give me some examples of an oynis gama or of an oynis regarding shchita. So he says, I just was a shlachtais, they shecht oifas chickens. I'll tell you perfect examples. The way it is in many shlachtais is that a guy holds the chicken, the shaychet shecht, and then he takes it away. It happens occasionally that the guy is too quick in taking away the chicken, and the shaychet obviously can't, in the middle of shechting, so the animal is a treifa. So that's a case of an uman tavach shekilkul. I mean, lamaisa, the chicken is a treifa. But that's a case of oynis gama. What should the shaychet do? The guy pulled it away. Question. In that case, is the shaychet chayiv on the damage? Because at the end of the day, this is uman tavach shekilkul, the shchit is pasul. Now what do you say? Well, say, I don't know. The Gemara says if he gets paid, you're chayiv. But let's rethink that. Let's go back to Chumash. Let's remember Parshas Mishpatim. What's the halacha shay mesachir that there was damage by oynis? It's a pasuk in the Torah. He's potter, right? He's chayiv on geneva, but list the mezuyah and he's chayiv. So since we're saying that since we're saying that tabach uman is like a shay mesacha, he's not worse than a shay mesacha. So taki is chayiv on oynis, but he's not chayiv on oynis gamor. Like the Riva, it's the same thing. And now you'll appreciate a few lines of a Tashbitz, one of the Rishonim, in Aleph Kuf Yud Gimel, where he says, mamash, this question, that if there was a real oynis suva, oynis rachmana patre, oy b'shay mesacha, oy kishay mesacha. Now, until today, you wouldn't know what the Tashbitz means to say. What do you mean? Oynis is potter? Fakert, by adam mud la'olam, oynis is chayiv. And what's the analogy to a shay mesacher? But now it's masik midvash. The Tashbitz is understanding that the uman that's paid like a shay mesacher. If he's like a shay mesacher, he has limitation like a shay mesacher. And if it's an oynis gamor, kishay mesacher, he's going to be potter on the damages. So here you see a beautiful example of what seems to be a beferish Gemara. Tabach uman is chayiv, but it's not so clear. If there's an oynis gamor, he will in fact be potter. Now I should mention, what comes out is that according to the Ramban, that he's chayiv even on an oynis gamor. This case would also be an oynis gamor and he's chayiv. Now what would the Bezdin do in this very case? According to Taisis and the Riva, he's potter. According to Ramban, he's chayiv. So that's a basic klal that whenever there's a machlokes, we say the muhzik could say kimli, like the poitrim, and I'm not going to pay. So in this case, the shaychet has right to say kimli like the Taisvis and the Riva, and therefore he's not mechuyev to pay. And taka the Marsham regarding a similar shayla in Dalet Chilal Simon Chavzayin says in the case where it's a machlokes, so the mazik could say kimli, and I'm not paying. But what's beautiful is this Tashbitz brings a riot his yisoid from a Mishnah Bava Kama Tzadik Chesam at Beis, where he told him to knock down one wall, and another wall fell down as well. You see, Oynis Gomer is Pata. Now you understand where he's coming from. We mentioned earlier. That in a case where it's an Oynis Gomer, even a paid worker will be Pata. Okay, question. You have an animal and you ask the Shaykh to do it as a favor. He's getting paid nothing. Bechinam. Okay? But what happened? In this case, he was a Paisheya. He was very negligent and he ruined the animal. What's the halacha? A Shaykhet Bechinam? That was Paisheya. So you'll say, oh, wait a minute. We said beferish that Bechinam, he's Pata. But it's not true. Why is Bechinam Pata? I is another mazik. The teretz is, I'm allowing him to do at best of his ability. But I never allowed him to be Paisheya. So here we see, and it's Pashit, a Tavach Bechinam is Takapata. Unless it's an Oynis Gum, unless it's a Paisheya. And Tak, you think about all the svaras. He's a Mazik Bershus, but there's a limitation. It has to be that he's trying. So here we see a Tavach Bechinam is Chayiv on a Paisheya. Okay. Consider the next question. Okay, and again, this is a very good example. He's getting paid, so we know that Lamaisa, he's Chayiv. Let's say he's not getting paid, and there was a mild oinus. Lamashal, the chicken moved. So that might be a mild oinus, ke'en aveda. Because he's supposed to hold on to the chicken with enough strength that it can't move. I mean, that's part of the job. No chicken is excited to get geshacht, and they start moving. So I wouldn't say that's Oynis Gomer. I wouldn't say it's Ke'en Genev. It's Ke'en Aveda. It's a mild Oynis. And he's not getting paid. Is he Chayiv when the Ma'aseh the Shchita was Pasul? So this is mamash the beauty of our sugya. According to Tosfos, what's the whole Chiyiv? He's like a Shem Masachem. Right? But in this case, it would be Chayiv, L'chayra. Because if he's not an Oynis, he's Chayiv. But according to the other Rishonim, I'm saying, do the best of your ability. Unless it's a Pshia, the Shaykh would be Pata. He's trying. Now, I can't say that he could have been more careful, but it's not a Pshia. This is an Oynis, Ke'en Aveda, but it's still an Oynis. So it comes out in this case, that Taka, like the other Rishonim, that the Heter is, because he's Mazik Bershus, he would be Pata unless it's a Pshia. And Ke'en Aveda, he would be Pata. Listen to the next question, but approach with caution, because you'll see it's a very simple psak after you chap this one point. A bookkeeper either did not deposit money in the bank, and that caused other checks to bounce, or he forgot to pay or when he was too busy, he forgot to pay a bill, and now he has a penalty to pay. The Balabas is saying pay, and he's saying it's not my fault, I'm overworked and underpaid, you know how they talk, I'm sorry, it's not my fault, it was an Oynis. So l'chayra, he's a paid professional, he's a Tavachum, and Tavachum is lav daf gesheichet. And it's not an Oynis Gomer, right? You forget to pay a bill, I can't, it's an Oynis Gomer. So the Chari has to pay. But there's one factor that this case is different than all the previous cases. In this case, he wasn't mazik. He didn't kill an animal. He didn't knock down a wall. And the worst scenario, failure to pay a bill or failure to deposit money, is a grama. He caused a penalty. Once you're talking about a grama, then even my other mazik is pata. Is chayiv b'dinei shamayim. That's when he's b'kavan al-hazik. Here, he's in a shaygig. Okay, he's not an oynis, but it's a shaygig. And there's no kavan al-hazik, he's even part of b'dinei shamayim. Right? If you say that, that's the wise thing to say, but not the right thing to say. Because we're missing one nakuda, which is the beauty of the sugya. Let me ask you a question. According to your understanding, so why is a Shai Masacha ever chayiv to pay on Geneva Vaveda? Geneva Vaveda, but the Geneva, certainly Geneva, is always an Oynis. Or at least a grama. What's the case of Geneva? The Shem went to sleep at night. He said Krishma and he's amish. He has negavas by his bed. He's a real tzaddik. Someone breaks into the dining room and steals the item. what did I do? I did nothing. He's even less than a grama. So now the question is, why is the Torah mechayev a shaima on geneva? It's a grama, if not a reduced grama. I did nothing. The teretz is, that's the chiyuv of shaima sacha yechayev on geneva. Zog the Heilige Chassam Sof in Choshe Mishpat Siman Kuf Mem in the Tshuvis, he says there's no ptur of grama by a shaima. Fakert, mi shebol yode b'Torah shmira ishlichus chayiv afilu atzad v'choyke v'nifla. He says every geneva by a shaima v'chol pshia shaimim v'iv shlichus kad ma'aynis behu ein el grama ba'alma afilu hachi chayiv. The chiddush of a shaima is chayiv on geneva is even though it's a grama is chayiv. As I stated Chassam Sof. Now let's take this a step further. Since we're saying that a worker has the dinim of a shaima sachir, he's also chayiv on grama, no different than a shaima. So therefore, it's chayr pashit that a worker that did damage with a grama would be chayiv. And the truth is, it's very logical. I pay a bookkeeper to pay the bills and to balance, the checkbook. It shouldn't bounce. And he doesn't do anything. He says, I'm sorry, but I'm only a grama. It's illogical. It has to be that a worker has a dinim of a shaima sachir and is chayiv in grama, unless, of course, it's an oyin is gama. Now, this will explain another halacha, which is a big sugi. We've got to mention this a few weeks ago. Let's say I tell my worker, go quickly. There's a big yirid, a big fear. They're selling merchandise at very, very low cost. Buy me out inventory for the next year. I give money, go. That's your own job. Go and buy inventory. There's a big sale. And he goes on vacation and he doesn't buy anything. So I'm furious. I lost my panasa. And he says, listen, I'm sorry, but I'm only a grama. He's even less than a grama. This is what we spoke about this 4 weeks ago, meniyas revach. He prevented me from getting a benefit, right? He didn't damage my house. I lost an opportunity of profit. No, meniyas revach is potter. But Re'ez Pelam, the Ritvan Bav Metzia Daf Ayin Gimel and the Nesivus and our Siman Shin Vav Sif Cotton Vav says a worker is chayiv on meniyas revach and he has to pay. Question: Ma'anishtana, why is a worker different? The teretz is masik for us. It's masik midvash. The worker has dinim like a shem mesachim. Shem mesachim is chayiv on grama. No, if that's his job, I could understand he's chayiv even on meniyas revach. Now, Lamaisa, many argue that he's chayiv on grama, does yet. But meniyas revach is even a step less than a grama. He didn't cause any damage. He caused you to lose a potential profit. Now, meniyas revach is lower, less than grama. Okay, so the machlaikis is a machlaikis, and of course, the balabas cannot be mechayvim because many poskim argue on the nesivas. But the havana that a worker has more responsibilities than a regular person. He's chayiv on grama, and like some is chayiv on meniyas revach. This would explain another big sugya. Maybe we'll do it a different time. But it's the same Gemara in Bava Kama Tzaddik Testament Beis. It's the same Shulchan Aruch and Shin Vav. This has got a C Vav. Let's say I want to know if I should buy a certain real estate property. So I pay a consultant to look into it, and he says, buy it, it's a great deal, grab it. And so it was a terrible deal. I lost a big amount of money. So now I go to him, I say, you have to pay me. You damaged me. You told me to buy an item that's worth come out nothing. He says, wait a minute. At worst, I'm a grama. He is only a grama. But this is the famous sugya of Amara Dina L'Shulchani, where I pay a consultant to tell me, should I buy this coin? Is it an antique? Is it worth a lot? He goes, yeah, look, this is mamash or metzia, grab it. And ends up being a forgery, ends up being a counterfeit. So the Gemara and the Shulchan Aruch says, if he gets paid, he has to pay you for the loss. What did he do wrong? He's only a grama. The teretz is, he gets paid for that job, he has to come through. So we see a poyel is chayiv on grama, like some is chayiv on meniyas revach, and midin haGemara and Shulchan Aruch and all agree he's chayiv if he gave me bad advice. It's only a grama, but if you get paid, you have to do your job. Question: someone gave in a wedding gown or a shirt to the cleaners, and a very responsible and a very erlich cleaners, but lamaisa, something got damaged along the way. He doesn't know how it happened, but these things happen. So the customer says, "Adamud la'olam, you have to pay." But the storekeeper says, "Listen, I tried as hard as I could. This is an oynis gomer. Who has right of way?" That's mamash our sugya. We saw the Tashbit says that even a shoy mesacha that gets paid is patan oynis gomer. And even though, according to the Ramban, he might be chayiv, but we saw the Marsham says in such a case, we say you can't be maitzi mam and misafik. So in that case, if, of course, you both agree that it's an oynis gomer, then the cleaner is not responsible. The same applies to a repairman or any worker that did damage. If it's an oynis gomer, we have this yesod of the Tashbitz, that a worker is no better than a shay mesacha, who is chayiv on geneva, but pata on oinsim. Question. A cook was given a big amount of expensive meat. He never did this before, but he tried very hard. And lemaisa, the meat got burnt. Now it's l'reach nichoyach ishel Hashem. It's inedible. Now, he's not a mazik, but he's a tevach uman. Tevach uman is lav daf k'shoichet. He's a paid professional. And l'chayr, this is a beferish gemara. Not exactly this case. The same sugya in Tzadik Testament Beis. If someone gave someone that grinds wheat, and he gave him wheat to make pure flour. Now, the standard procedure, you soak the wheat, that softens it, so then you could take off the bran, and you could have pure wheat. But this person didn't soak it enough, and it ended up being inferior flour. So the Gemara and the Shulchan Aruch says, since he gets paid, he's chayav for the damages. Again, he was not a mazid, but you didn't do your job, and he has to pay. So it makes sense that the cook, that again, if he was not, unless it's an oynis gomer, something happened, the electricity went out and there was no fire, but unless it's an oynis gomer, of course he would be like a tabach uman shekilkel, he gets paid. Now, Baruch Hashem, the shivas or camps aren't mechayev the cook that sometimes they burn something, or because then, as the yeshiva boy says, it's always ruined, the food is always ruined, so then he always be chayev, but it has to be reasonable. And there's certain understanding as well. Question. A hired worker, plumber, electrician, is doing work in the house, but when he came in, he forgot to lock the door, and as he's drilling or making noise in the back, a ganav came in from the unlocked door and helped himself. And now the balabas says, you're getting paid, you're a tabachuman, you're getting paid, you have to pay me for all the hezek. So here we come to a simple chiluk. Let's slow down. I, the hired worker, I'm responsible for my work. So if I do some damage as I'm doing my work, I have to pay. My work was not to lock the door. Now, you'll say, what do you mean? So why don't you lock the door? Okay, so then you could say, a certain avlite and lock the door. But how do you classify leaving a door unlocked and a ganav comes and steals? That's a typical case of a grama. In fact, a pirate's gather b'fnei behemes chavera is a grama. So now we have to divide the work and the regular responsibilities. So Taka, the worker was negligent in a certain sense, or an aynis, a shaygig you call him, but that's not included in his job. So we have to look at the lack of locking the door as a regular grama, and if he was pesheya, then he would have to pay b'dinei shemayim. If it wasn't his fault because he found the door unlocked, he just walked in, so then no one told him to lock it, so it's not his fault, then it would not even be chi b'dei shemayim. We heard a similar question where a babysitter was given the child to watch. You could take the stroller, which she did. She took the stroller to her house, brought the baby back, left the stroller in the hall downstairs, didn't lock the door, and someone stole the stroller. And the parents are unhappy, you left the door unlocked. So that case is very similar. After she completed her job, and she brought the baby back, so now there's no chiyuvim of a tavachuman. What is the only obligation? I should have locked the door. So first of all, that's the way I found it. I walk in, I take the stroller, you don't lock the door, why should I lock the door? I mean, maybe I should have, but I'm not responsible. And also, since it's not part of my job to lock the door, it's a regular grama. And a grama ben izakin is Pater B'dinei Adam, Chayim B'dinei Shemayim, and in this case, the assumption is it's not a Kavanah Lahazik, it wouldn't be Chayiv B'dinei Shemayim. Now, if you told her, lock the door, that's part of your job, so then it's a Pshi and the Shmir. But typically, she brought it back the way she found it, and it would not be a Chayiv. Okay. Listen to a story. I saw this in one of the Svarim. I should mention a wonderful sefer, Maisa Uman, has many Choshen Mishpat issues. He has supposed to be a true story, where someone was hired. There was people had a chest freeze in the basement full of meat. They bought it in big volume, and they were afraid that it was making noise. They called their repairman to fix it. So he went down to the basement and he fixed it. A week later, they start smelling something is not kosher. What happened was he fixed the freezer taka, but he didn't put the plug in. Now you'll ask me, how did he know it's fixed if he didn't plug it in? So I kasha v'maisa, kasha startmanish. That's the story, true story. He didn't plug in the plug, and the people are saying, well, it's a lot of meat, this is a few $100s, probably into thousands of dollars, and he's saying, did you tell me to plug in the plug? I mean, you don't have too much seichel, you plug in the plug. But then he said, listen, I didn't unplug the plug. I came, I fixed the freeze. That was my job. So it's hard to figure out, if this was a wise decision. It probably wasn't. But if you go from a Choshen Mishpat perspective, he was not hired to put the plug back. He was hired to fix it, which he did. Now, if someone pulls out a plug of a freezer, so that could be, the Pais can discuss, that could be more than Groma, that's Garmi. Because the Hezek starts right away. But he didn't pull out the plug. He fixed it, didn't touch the plug, b'knisasi or b'yitziyasai. So in the worst scenario, the plug has nothing to do with his work. He wasn't paid to put the plug in. So maybe you could say he's a grumma. He's probably not even a grumma if he didn't pull out the plug. So certainly you can't hold him responsible for that. A painter was moving furniture to be able to do a good job and get to the back, and he broke a leg of the furniture, which was a big hezek. So, l'chayra, this is a new case of a paid profession, a new case of tavachuman. And the assumption was it's not an oynis gomer. It was like a regular oynis. But here, Rabbi say, there's another tzad to say that he was not paid to move furniture. He was paid to paint. If he decides on his own to do a better job and move the furniture, so he becomes like a bechinam, a professional that does something bechinam that the same Gemara says he's pater. Now, if when he came to give you an estimate, he takes a look at the furniture and says, what, to move that? That's an extra $50 at least. So if he gave a charge for that, that's part of his job. So then he has to do it carefully. And then you have to know if it was an oynis, a karvla, pshia or not. But if he did it on his own free will, even though he is a tavach uman, but that was not part of his job, and he would be pater. Another case I saw in that Sefer Maisa Uman, a beautiful shaila, because it brings out all the fine points of our sugya, and this is an old-fashioned shaila. A Rav was given a box with an esrig to see if it's kosher or not. Now, today they have these foams, so it's not a shaila, but he had with the moch, with the flax wrapped around the esrig, and as he's unraveling, someone really did a good job, he yanked off the pitim. So now the Rav is sitting with a clearly posula esrig. Now I don't know if he's going to charge the Rav or not. Maybe the Rav on his own started declaring is he chayiv. So first of all, this is all of our sugya depends what the story was. If the Rav is not getting paid to check esroigim, so he's a tavach uman, that's that v'chinam. So he's pater. It's zicha not a pshia. Let's say he's paid by the kehila, by the whatever, and he has to sit for X amount of hours per day. So now he's a tavach uman, that's b'schar. So therefore, l'chayra, that's totally an our sugya. If it's a karv l'pshia, he would be chayiv, like a krengenei aveda. And if it's a real oynis gomer, like the Arman, he's also chayiv, like the other place he's pater. But this sefer says a good word, and he says he was paid to check esroigim. That's not his job to open up and unravel the esrig. If a person that has a shtickle respect for a Rav, you cherish the Rav's time. Every moment is precious. You come to him with the esrog in your hand. You don't give it to him here, like you open it. If he is getting paid, he's not getting paid to open the box. So that he's doing your job, and that's the tavach uman shekilkol bechinam, and the Rav is not responsible, which is a lesson. You got to cherish the Rav's time and just keep him to the bare minimum. A question which happens sometimes where a Rebbe or a teacher confiscates an item from a student and it got lost or it broke. So this is a sort of a sensitive issue because Lamaisa, the boys are not happy. Like one Bacha told me, in our yeshiva the rule is Hefka Bez and Hefka. Everything is the Rebbe's, the Benayos. Now the truth is that could be, if that's the protocol of the yeshiva, that the Rebbe could take away what he wants. I saw the Piskei Choshen and Geneva Aleph Yud Zayin, the Mishnah Loch is involved, Reish Pei Daled. Both say Taka, that could be the rule. The yeshiva can make a rule that we have to keep discipline. Rav Nashe Klein stellt zu the Mishnah and the Gemara in the Makkos Daf Ches, where a Rebbe that's hitting a Talmud, it's a mitzvah to hit him, and even if he killed him, b'shayigig, there's no galus. He's doing it rishus. He doesn't say these words, but if he's allowed to kill the Talmud, he's going to take away his toy that's disrupting the class. So taking it away, I saw the Ma'aseh Ish from the Chazon Ish in Vav Nun Ches is also matir that as far as disciplining or keeping control. But the truth is, there's no reason that a Rebbe should not return it. A Pam once told me, when a boy says, "My Rebbe's a ganef," you know that you did the wrong thing, whether he's right or wrong. But a boy can't think a Rebbe's a ganef, so a Rebbe could take it away, but should give it back. If he lost it, so then l'chari has a problem. Now you probably could say in Allah tavach umen shekilkel, that's part of his job, and he's allowed to take it away. But losing it is already ke'en aveda, and it would be chayiv. And besides, it's not good for the Talmud that the Rebbe lost it, he can't find it. Why do I have to lose? Be very careful. In such a case, it would be wonderful if the Rebbe pays him and tells him, "I'm not above the Choshen Mishpat, I lost it." Now, if the Rebbe took it away and doesn't want to give it back to him because it's a bad thing, so that of course is a different story. But generally, the Rebbe could take it away, but give it back in a timely manner. Consider this case: a Uman was doing his job, but at the end he lost the item. For example, you come to the cleaners, he can't find your shirt, he can't find this, he can't find the belt. So Lamaisa, here we come to another part of this whole sugya, and that is the Mishnah in Bav Metzia Daf Pei Amud Beis. Besides the fact that the Uman is getting paid to do his job, part of the job is to protect the item. Imagine the cleaner spends 4 hours cleaning the wedding gown and hangs it up to dry overnight in the street. Very nice, but it's not going to be in the morning. So part of your job is to protect the item. If you have expensive becher that you're trying to polish, you can't leave it on the countertop and go on the counter and go someplace else. Someone will steal it. So Zoktim, the Mishnah and the Mechab in the beginning of the Torah, in the beginning of Shin Vav quotes the Lashon, and so does the Sma, that the Tavach Uman is also a Shay Mesacher to protect the item. So besides doing repairs, you have to make sure that the item does not get stolen or taken. Now, therefore, if he's not careful and someone stole the item from the store, avada, the Uman has to pay. There's a big tumult in the Paiskim if the repairman locked his store with good locks and a gunner broke in. Is he also responsible? He's a Shay Mesacher, that's true. But once we could say this is more like an Einis Gama / Listem Mezuyin case, then even a Shay Mesacher is pot. But in a typical case, he left it in the store and customers are coming and going, and he didn't put it away even during store hours, when he really should put it away, then the Uman is Chayiv als the Geneva Shaboy. Now, if the cleaners lost the shirt, so again, I'm not a cleaners, but it's hard to understand, that would be an Einis Gomer. If it's an Einis Gomer, he's Potter. If it's somewhat of a Ke'en Aveda, then the cleaners would be responsible. A lost belt, a lost button, all these stories, that might be close to an Einis. If it's an Einis, we saw earlier, he's Potter. But in a regular case where it's a Einis Ke'en Aveda, then of course the paid worker is chayiv to pay. Now what's complicated when the cleaner sends out his shirts to a different company to do it, so that's a Shem Mesacher, so that's a different sugya. But basically the worker has to have responsibility, the item should not get lost. I must mention, that's negated to all of us, the second half of the Mishnah. Yes, the cleaners or the worker is responsible. But once he tells you it's ready, there that's where his responsibility ends. Now this is a problem, maybe an av is the right word. People give in things to repair or to shirts to the cleaners, and they don't pick it up in time, and he has to become a storage service. The truth is, after he tells you that it's ready, you have to pick it up. Then he's no longer a shayma. And if he says not responsible for items left over 30 days, so he's not responsible for items left over 30 days. In fact, some say he could even throw it out. He's not mechuyev to open up a storage service for people that don't pick it up. So we have to be fair on both sides to make sure that commerce works. Last group of questions are called the special situation question. Let me explain. The Mishnah in Bava Metzia that Pei Beis and Beis speaks about a sabel. Now, the sabel is the lashon the Shulchan Aruch uses in Siman Shin Dalet. Sabel is either a porter, a carrier, someone that's carrying a load. So a sabel, a porter that's carrying a load from makom lemakom, and he trips. Nisko lav pesheya. It's an oinus, but he's not a pesheya. But he's not a real oinus, because nisko is sort of in between. He really should be chayiv to pay for the broken barrel of wine. But Zakti Gemara, Zakti Mishnah, he's potter. Zakti Gemara in Bamitzia, the next Amud Daf Pei Gimel, that this a takanas chachamim, that he has to swear that he wasn't pesheya and he's potter. Why? Because if not, ein lecha adam avachaviz lechaveir makom lemakom. You're not going to have anybody that wants to be a sabel. No one's going to want to carry things. So really, a sabel that did damage, unless it's an oinus gomer, is chayiv. But Chazal pated him also takanas chachamim. And this is gepaskin in Shulchan Aruch and Shimon Dalet Shin Sif Aleph. And that's what I'm going to refer to as a sabel. That he's a carrier, he's a porter, which really should be chayiv. He's a tavach uman, he's getting paid for his job. But Chazal pated him. Now, why punk they pated him of all workers? So the Shvus Yankov and the Tshuva, Chayla Gimel, Chayshemish B'Kuf Ayin Zayin explains that it's a very difficult job, and generally porters are aniyim and avyoinim, and it's very common that they drop things. And I would add, and when they usually drop an expensive item, they usually carry expensive items, and it comes out that he drops something once a week, he doesn't end up making money a whole week, because he has to pay from the whole week's wages to pay for that damage. So you're going to end up having nobody carrying loads. So this is the halacha of a sabel, beginning in Shulchan Aruch and Dalet Shin, Sif Aleph. A sabel is potter from the damages. Potter means potter, not just you're a tzaddik and overlook it, he's potter. Now the next question is a little trickier. Let's say he's a shlemazel, he dropped it, but he's a bar mazel also. He got to your house, he's holding the barrel, and then he dropped it. So you come out, you say, what's going on? I say, I'm sorry. He goes, sorry. So the balabas is a Shulchan Aruch, okay, you're potter. He goes, by the way, you didn't pay me for my work. I say, pay you for what? For dropping the barrel? I got to your house, completed my job. Because the sabel that's not going to have to pay for the damage, could he demand payment? Zok Tisma and Sifkat and Gimel, why not? He did his job, pay him. If he dropped it in the beginning, he didn't finish his job. Now the Taz of Anaret says this doesn't make sense. What's he getting paid for? To break it? And then he says, if that's the case, you're protecting the sabel more than the customer. So the Taz says, you taka can't make him pay for the item, but you don't have to pay him for his work. Like the Sma you do, and I guess the halacha would be that the balabas who's muhzik in his money doesn't have to pay the sabel because he's the kimli, he's the muhzik. But Rabbi said there's more to this. The Gemara in Bava Metzia Daf Pei Gimel, the same Amid right before the Mishnah, tells a story about Rabbi Bar Chana that hired workers to carry wine, and they were paisheya, not a oinis karv l'pshia, paisheya. So Rabbi Chana knew they're not going to pay him so quickly, so he took their item as a collateral, as a mashkin. And they went to Rav, they squealed to Rav, and says, hey, Rabbi Bar Chana took our shirt. So Rav said, what's going on here? So he said, wait a minute, they were mazik. He says, give it back to them. Don't require them to pay. So Rabbi Bar Chana says, din hachi, that's the din, goes in. Because the pasuk says in Mishneh, leman telech b'derech toivim, you have to go lefnim meshuras hadin. In other words, they really were chayiv to pay, and Rav told him, don't require them to pay. Then they weren't finished. They went to Rav and said, listen, we're very poor, we have nothing to eat for supper, we didn't make money today. So Rav says, pay them their wages. Dina hachi, he asked, in the second half of the pasuk, va'archa sadikim tishmar. So this is an incredible lefnim meshuras hadin, that if the worker was peisheya, the sabel was peisheya, not only you can't require him to pay, but you have to pay the wages. This is not quoted in Shulchan Aruch, but the Torah in the beginning of Dalet Shin quotes this, as does the Rav in Hilchos Sheila, Sif Yotes, and the Aruch HaShulchan, end of Siman Dalet Shin. This is a double chiddush. This is a sabel, which we know already is a Mishnah, but there's a pshia, and he has to, not only can't require him to pay, he has to pay the wages. Why? This is the Yesod. This is our Torah. This is Lefnim Meshuras Hadin. This is Yashris. But the chiddush of all chidushim is the Kitta Shulchan Aruch, which is Klal Yisrael's Paisik for Doiris, in Kuf Pei Hey Sif Hey, talking about Hilchais workers, nothing to do with Sabel. The obligations for the worker to the boss and vice versa. And he says a worker that did work and he ruined it afilu b'pshia, even though he's chayiv to pay, there's a mitzvah of Lefnim Meshuras Hadin on the balabayis to overlook it and be moichelim. And if the work is an ani, pay the worker for the work. So we see a double chiddush after a double chiddush. Because the Gemara is speaking about a sabel that did damage. Okay, I can understand. The Kitzah is extending that to a regular worker, any worker, that don't charge him if he broke it, and if he's an ani, pay him. Again, that's our Lefnei Meshuras Hadin. That's the Aruch HaSadikim Tishma. Now, this again is only the Kitzur. The Chavas Yar and the Tshuva and Kuf Samachtes seems to say the same thing. But basically, we see a person has to live with Yashris. It's not just, din is usually win. But you have to think about Yanim. So there's a certain element that we have to always consider. Now, I have to be very clear. A sabel that did damage, that's halacha. No one could argue. A regular worker that did damage, there's a Lefnei Meshuras Hadin to overlook his damage. Now, of course, if the worker has money and the balabas doesn't, so if it's only Lefnei Meshuras Hadin, so then it's maybe fakert. In that case, he could charge the worker. But basically, a person has to approach with caution when you're dealing with the shein kind of our Torah. What's kedai to mention, we're talking a lot about responsibilities that the balabas and the worker. The Rambam, in the end of Hilchos Chiris, says that a worker has to work, mamish, give it all he's got, and then he says, "V'chein chayev labay b'chol koichay, so Yakov atzadik ama ki b'chol koichay avarati as avichen." And therefore he was gebenched in Olam Hazeh with the great schar of having his gebenched the family. I remember a Pam Zechon Bracha once asked, the Rambam calls him Yakov atzadik. Now Yaakov Zichar was a tzadik, don't get me wrong. But where do we find the Rambam ever calls someone a tzaddik? We know Yosef a tzaddik, we call Yosef, but Yaakov a tzaddik? So, the Rambam is teaching us that true tzidkis is defined by a person that's an erlacha worker. That's a true tzaddik. Yaakov a tzaddik because he was an erlacha worker. And I would add, it's interesting, the Gemara is speaking about the Orcha Sadikim Tishma. What does that mean? The Gilgul Shelag and the Chaves, fasting, Taneis Pigufim, it's an erlacha person in Chayshim Mishpat. So therefore, besides the halachas, we have to also look at the Yashris. A mover that was moving and did damage as he was moving the items. So a mover is a heintiger example of a sabel. So basically he's protected by Takanas Chachamim. Now, if he's a pshia, I should mention, a pshia is not included in Takanas Chachamim. That might be Lefnim Meshuras Hadin, but a regular worker, a sabel, that was not Paisheya, he's Pata Al Takanas Chacham. Now the Paiskim, the heintiger Paiskim add, if he advertises, we fully insured and we're responsible. So if he's accepting responsibility, that overrides the patur of Saval, and then he would have to pay. A cleaning lady broke an item, can you mechayev to pay? Or a waiter that dropped a tray of dishes and it broke. So this l'chayr is a new example of Tavach Uman Shekilkel. He's a paid worker. But Reis Apel, the Shulchan early in Shin Lamed Aleph Siv Zayin, he says that taka, a waiter or a mashar says that broke should have to pay. But the minig balabatim yesharim is that we don't charge them for broken items. The Chavas Yar and Siman Kuvav also says this. Evidently, we're treating a cleaning woman like a sabel. That, again, the same svar, they're poor, and there's very little wages. So basically, we could say that a cleaning lady that did damage or a waiter did damage, there's an unspoken rule that it's potter. Now, lamaisa, a doctor that did damage, and sometimes it could be major damage, there's a lot of costs, medical costs. So that's a real tavach uman, and understandably, he's not a poor sabel, he's getting a lot of money. He should have to pay for all the damages. But here we have a Tosefta Bava Kama, Periktes, Halacha Gimel, that says there's a roi for uman sheriper b'shus bezdin v'hizik potter. Avo yosim and aroi eloi, if he did more than he's supposed to, he's chayiv. Now here we see, across the board, a doctor, the damage is potter from all the damages. It's not clear why, but in Tosefta, in Gittin, Gimel Yud Gimel, adds has the same halacha, and adds may tikkun ha'olam. Zok the Tashbitz in Chayla Gimel Siman Pei Beis, really a doctor that did damage to chayiv even on a shoygig. He's a tabach uman. But then he said, no one will be a doctor. They're going to be sued. And since nitna rishus l'roifel l'rapos, we need doctors, there's a special exemption for a doctor to damage. And this is Gepaskin in Yeridei Shin Lamed Vav Sif Aleph. The Shulchan Aruch and the Tosefta speaks about Bershus Bezdin, and today Bezdin doesn't give Bershus to be a doctor. So Dr. HaShulchan and Yeridei Sif Beis and the Shib Shevet Levi and Dalet Kuf Nun Aleph, that today it is no longer Bershus Bezdin, that patazim, it is a licensed doctor. So basically a doctor did damage would be potter. Now today, with the age of suing, and so that, if that's the understanding and he doesn't mind, so you have to, ask a shayla. But basically, a doctor did damage, it would be potter. We had a shayla where a doctor wrote out to someone a expensive prescription, and Baruch Hashem, he didn't take it, but it would have done great damage, and it was the wrong prescription. He wanted to return it because doctors have to take it, and they don't take back, prescriptions. So he wants the mechayiv doctor to pay. So that's a good taina, because that's not roifi uman shehizik. This is a regular case of a mazik. He maybe buys something I didn't need. You'll say the doctor's only a grama, but this is like a paid consultant. This is like a maradin al-shulchan. You told me to buy it. I was moitzi eitzois al-picha, alecha kos samichna, and the doctor would have to pay. Interesting question. Don't quote me on this one, but a wife that's cleaning the dishes and broke a dish or two, she has to pay. Now today, Baruch Hashem, this is not realistic, but in the times that people lived up strict dry halacha, it's the balabas, his item, and she broke it. And she's getting paid free room and board, so tabach umet shekilku. But the interesting is, the Rambam in Hilchos Ishus Perik Chaf Aleph Halacha Tes, quoting a Yushalmi in Ksubis, Tes Dalid, that really the Isha should pay, but al shalom bayis, we let things go. Because it's not going to be a good shalom bayis. If he has to pay, she won't do it. He's afraid to do it. So the Rambam, based on Yishalmi, says the chiyuv is alts, the ptur is alts shalom bayis. Now, lamaisa, we should be lefim shadin and pay her for the work that she broke, like we saw from the Gemara, a little more on oiker, cherish her more and more. But what's really, I thought, Mosig Midvash, the Raiva on this Rambam says, Loimin Hashem, that's not why she's potter. She's potter because of Shmira B'Bailim, she's Sochala B'Chol Shah. She's working for him, she's potals that. So all the Achrayim wonder, what's the Raiva talking about? Where did Shmira come into the picture? Sochala Shah. She's a wife and a husband. So I saw half a dozen Gedolei Achrayim, the Machne Ephraim and Shemim Mamdal is the first, but all the Achrayim come out say this Yisoid, and for us it's Mosig Midvash. In this case, this is mamish like our original Tavach Uman. We said that if he's doing it and he's not getting paid, it's like a Mazik Bershus. So the Paiskim are saying in this case, she's doing it in that relationship. So it's like saying, do the best you can, and if there's damage that's done, she would be potter. So they're using that to compare to the case of Bechinam, that Lamaisa, she's potter. At the end of the day, the Mechaben and Ebenezer pay Yud Zayin, says an Isha that broke Kalim is potter. Now the grocery delivery service is not simple. People get very upset, they call up the store, they're all outraged. The truth is, it needs a share for itself, but I'm going to tell you, it's not so posh that the storekeeper is responsible. Picture the following scenario. You pay extra for delivery, and the store doesn't deliver, they hire a delivery service. So what do you want from me, the storekeeper? Go to delivery service. What did I do? So in that case, it's pashut that the storekeeper is not responsible. He was a shadchan, he took your $5 and he paid delivery service to deliver. He must have added more to that, but it's not his fault, he didn't do it. In the best scenario where the customer has a taina is when the storekeeper sends his own delivery person. But and there you have to add another kinech. That Lamaisa technically, even though he paid cash for delivery, he's not yet kind of the goods, because kesef is not kind of a metaltalin. So technically it still belongs to the storekeeper. Then he could say, you broke your own item. So Lamaisa, this is all not negeya. The storekeepers are very accommodating. They will refund the broken item. But in a case where they hired a different delivery service, it's not the responsibility of the storekeeper. If he pays, good, but you can't really demand in that case. We had a shaila with one of the Bacham Yeshiva. He went to donate blood, and they did something and made a terrible mistake. And rather they didn't ask shailas, they took care of it. They paid all the necessary medical bills, but that's probably not included in Reifi and Shehizik. This is a private, organization, but it's hard to believe that's a Reifi and Shehizik, but this would be a situation where they took care of it. Last but not least, I want to tell you the shayla that happened in the yeshiva. This was in camp. This was Bacham, maybe 17 years old. One Bach had his air conditioner from the house, and it was not working. So he asked his friend, also all of 17, who knows a little more than he did, to fix it. And he fixed it. Glad he knew his stuff. But he didn't know is when you put the case back onto the air conditioner frame, on the actual unit, so there's a bunch of holes. Now, I can't explain it, but there are a bunch of holes. Now, he drilled through one hole, which went right into the freon and broke the item. So if it was never broken till then, now it was broken. Now, I did my homework. It's very misleading. There's a bunch of holes, and only one you're supposed to screw in. Now, why they make it that way, no one knows. A good electrician knows only the middle hole. But he did the first hole, and if you're in Alamitzi, he did the first hole. And he broke it on the spot. So the chayr, this is what we mentioned in the beginning. If he's bechinam, he's chayiv, right? And Rashi says, why'd you do it? But I said, no, bechinam is chayiv. And Rashi says, why'd you do it? It's pesheya. Bechinam of a hedyet, bechinam. A hedyet bechinam is chayiv, that Gemara says. But it didn't make sense to me. So that didn't make sense to me. Because the Achrayim say the case of the Gemara is talking about, you go over to someone, can you shecht? And he's a wannabe sheikh, but not more. But this is his debut. If he does, he'll say, I shechted a be'em agasam. And he tries, and he doesn't know what he's doing, and he kills the animal. So if you didn't know that he's a amateur, he should have told you. He should have said, listen, I'll try, but I can't take responsibility. So in that case, it's a pshia mitzad the amateur. But in this case, that you knew that he knows a drop more than you, which is still nothing, so it's a sav of a kill, it's a mazik b'rshus, itak v'pata, a guten tag to you all.
Shame Egan, your Torah, like to give a big shekel to our Smith for today's share. The Smith was, whoever like to have the great, because the sponsor is share, call Egan, your Torah, 718-851-8651. The Smith will say, seek him of today's share, Bez Hashem, in a few minutes. But I'm going to catch him out to Kaddish Baruch HaZak, it's Yisrael, the Figach, Hebrew, Torah, Mitzvah, Shenem, Al, Neu, Chofes, Man, Tzidgo, Yagdol, Torah, V'Yadir.
Yes. say what I said yet? Just what I say. Why you talking about it? Pay it out yet? You fixed it and you didn't tell the fees. That's good. Yes? Yeah, pay it down. It's good.
Initial, I don't know.
He's paying the hospital.
So what is it?
Just a million survivor for the hospital.
So I'm about to not pay the hospital? No, that's not nice. I didn't pay all the covenants. Yeah.
This is, they didn't give you the right. First of all, the main thing is anybody can say
He's not going to promise he has copies.
Okay, something like that.
Try not to make any mistakes here, but the dismissal said the seeker on today's share about working making mistakes.
Okay, just let's review today. We learned a lot, Bez Hashem. First of all, Adam HaMazik, the general clause is Adam Mud La'olam. By an Oynis Gama, the Ramban holds he's chayiv even on that. We saw the Riva says only on a regular Oynis, he's chayiv, not an Oynis Gama, and Taisa Zicha holds on an Oynis Gama, he's potter. And any time a person is an Adam HaMazik, but Oynis Gomer, you can't be mechayiv the mazik to pay because he can say kimli. But generally, Adam Mud La'olam, by a moderate Oynis, all agree he's chayiv to pay. The sugi of today was looking at a worker that was paid and did damage as he's working. Again, wasn't the mezid, there wasn't the pshia. It was sort of an oynis, a shaychi that shechted and it became treif. So that's the sugya. Do we look at a paid worker as more of a chiyah because he's getting paid, or less of a chiyah because it's understood that things go wrong? And it came out, the way we understood was that lamaisa, a worker, has more responsibilities. The fact he's getting paid, he's more responsible. If he's not getting paid, then it's just the opposite. The fact that he's doing you a favor, it's like you're telling him do at the best of your ability. It's like a mazik b'shus and he's potter. Now, a paisheya all agree is chayiv. A worker, even if he's a uman and he's getting bechinam, but a paisheya is chayiv. Lida gisan oynis gomer that got paid and did damage is potter. Because you could say kimli like the sheet is that an oynis gomer is potter even by a paid worker. That was the tashbitz and the svaras. He's not worse than a shem masacha that's potter on a oynis gomer. A bookkeeper that didn't either deposit enough money and checks bounced, or he didn't pay bills on time and there was a penalty. Even though in theory it's a grama, but then again shem masacha is chayv also on grama, and a paid worker has the halachas of a shem masacha. There are those that hold a work is chayiv maniyas revach. Not all agree, and ma'isa you can't be mechayiv money of the worker. But the aside is a worker has more responsibility when he gets paid. A paid consultant gave bad advice. You can mechayiv him to pay miyikad din, even though it's a grama, but that's part of his payment to give good advice. A cleaner's ruined an item. You have to determine if it's an oynis gomer or close to an oynis gomer. He would be potter. If it's an oynis that's karav lapshia like aveda, then it would be chayiv. A cook burnt the food. If it was an oynis gam, he's potter. If it was a moderate oynis, he would be chayiv, but that's not done. And of course, it shouldn't be done to mechayiv a cook that tried hard. He left the door unlocked, and as he's working, and Ganavim came in, that's not part of his job. That's a regular grama, and he's even potter medina shemayim because there was no kavanah lahazik. A babysitter returned the stroller to the house, and it was stolen. She did her job, and there's no chiyuv as far as the stolen stroller. The repairman that fixed the freezer but didn't plug it in, it came out that he would be potter because that's a case of a grama. He was not paid to do the work. Also, it's not even a grama probably because he didn't take out the plug. But basically, he would not be chayiv for that. A painter that on his own moved furniture to be able to do a better job and it broke it, so that part of moving is not part of his job, and he's potter on the damaged furniture unless he was paid specifically for the furniture. A Rav that ruined the esrog as he was unwrapping the pishtan would be potter, that's not his job, that's like an uman tabach shekilkol bechinam. A Rebbe confiscates an item is okay, he should give it back. If it was damaged, but be oinus, of course he's potter, but Lamaisa, Rebbe should make sure the children don't think the Rebbe Chalil is a ganaf or a mazik. A worker has chiyuvei shmira, he has to watch the item. If he left it out by day when people are coming and going and it was stolen, avadis chayiv. If there was a break-in at night to a secure store that had good alarms and etc., then it's an oinus gam and he's potter. If you lost an item, it was a real oinus, he lost a shirt, he's potter, but generally if there's some type of karvel pshia, then he would be chayiv on the lost item. Once the cleaners or any worker finishes his job, the owner must pick it up. He's not mechayiv to keep it indefinitely. He could say, if you don't come in 30 days, it's hefka, and he could discard it. There is a specific tour of a sabel, a paid carrier, a paid porter, or a mover, and even if he did damage that he should be chayiv, we pat to him because of a takanas chazal. There is an inyan to pay him. That's according to the Smai. He should get paid for his work. The Taz holds you potter from the payment, and a balabas has the option of not paying because he is the muhzik. The Kitzur Shulchan, the Paiskim say even more so based on a Gemara. Even if he was mazik bepshia, the Saval's mazik bepshia, it's lefnim shadin to pay him and not to charge him for the damage. That's lefnim shadin. It's not a takanas chacham. That's lefnim shadin. The Kitzur Shulchan Aruch extends this tremendous lefnim shadim to any worker that did damage. So certainly it's something to think about before a balabas is mechayev a worker to pay for a damage. Think about the chiyuvim and think about lefnim shadim, and the BA Aruch HaSadikim is worth a few dollars. A worker has a chiyuvim to be a tzaddik. Yakov a tzaddik, as we said, he should work b'chol koichai. A mover that did damage and he's insured or guarantees his work has to pay out the guarantee. A mashar says, or wait, that the damage, we overlook minor damage, unless of course he's a pesheya b'mezid, but generally a mashar says should be exempt from any damages. A doctor, unlike is not a saval in that respect, he gets paid nicely, but there's a special patur, if he's licensed, that he shouldn't be responsible for his damages. A wife that damaged things at home is potter. A donation, someone donated blood and there was damage, then lamaisa they did take the responsibility. A delivery that broke, at times the balabas is not chayiv to pay, but he's nice enough, so accept it as that. And a volunteer that did damage he's not an uman, he's a hedjit, and he doesn't get paid. If you know he's a volunteer and he doesn't know what he's too much more than you do, you can't require him to pay, because that's al das kain, he did the job, and you can't be required to pay.